I'll pitch another alternative. Go see a bad movie. Just go pick a bad movie, go watch it, and have fun with the fact that it stinks, or be pleasantly surprised, or be like, that wasn't great, but I do like what some things that director did. I mean, be a film nerd.
Hello, and welcome to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Chasen, and like always, I'll be joined today by the team that brings you cupofteacritiques.com. Here, we'll dive deep into the productions and topics we broach on our website, so you can decide for yourself if they're your cup of tea. Ready for a deep look with a deep brew? This week's topic, January movie dump. Cup of Tea Critiques is a family affair, and I'm here with my brother Chris, my mother Reba, and my father Terry.
It's not even really a perception. It's just reality that the January is a month where studios tend to release movies they don't have a whole lot of confidence in doing well at the box office. So it's called in the industry a dump month. And so I thought we could just discuss, some of the reasons behind that and the kind of exceptions to the rule and whether that trend will continue or change now that movie theater attendance has generally gone down anyway.
One of the articles was written in a way to suggest that everyone knew that January was referred to as dump month. And it was the first time I'd heard that term. I'd never heard that term before, so I am definitely out of the loop on that one. I can certainly understand, though, why movies would be dumped in January, though. I mean, to their point, first of all, it's after the big end of the year holidays, which is when, people tend to go to the movies. People tend to go to the movies over things around family and such, and that's one of the things that they do. And once they get back home and settled in and they're back at work and back into their routines, and it's cold outside and a big part of the country, they don't do that so much. And so, yeah, what are the studios going to do with these movies that people are not necessarily motivated to go see? It's a great time to just get rid of it.
Yeah, I thought they had some good points in articles. They pretty much overlapped in a lot of it. They repeated the same ideas as to why. Some of it is the fact that people have tapped out finances because they've spent so much over the holidays, because that is one of the big times for pushing movies outside of summer. And poor weather in January was another, I thought, interesting thing. Yeah, January is unpredictable in that respect. You could have, snowfall that covers for several weekends, and that could really throw out whatever plans studios had for, a particular release. The other was the fact that they try to stage things, the timing of the award shows as such being early in the year, and the deadline for, Oscar nominations or movies to be released in order to be considered is December 31st. And the fact that they go on the assumption that people have short memories, so something released in January would be eligible for the next cycle. And by that time, tons of things have been released that are more present in people's minds, including the voters. And so, yeah, January stuff gets way left behind. But I was left with the idea that it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I mean, if you constantly are just dumping bad movies in January, then there's almost no hope for anything coming out of that as being either a huge moneymaker or something that gets critical acclaim. So, yeah, to me, it's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. I can go on with the diatribe. Maybe I'll take a break and let somebody else jump in. I have some more points to make, but that's enough for now.
Dad, I'm curious about the other points you have to make, because everything you said I agreed with. As you could see on the screen, I was demonstrably agreeing with what you said. It's self-fulfilling prophecy. January is always going to be a crap month if you purposefully keep putting crap out in January. So
Yeah.
how can it ever be a good month for movies unless you actually invest into the month? I think that's the case with anything. I hated the lame excuses of, well, we wanted to make sure that we snuck these in so that we can be top of mind for the awards or whatever, because there have been plenty of crap movies that have been snuck in to make it to award time. So I don't understand why they think that we have to put our best stuff here because that's when it's most likely to get in. The idea that it's, people have short-term memories, again, another lame excuse, because I recall several movies, most recently like the Avengers movie that came out. They did Endgame as a re-release, but I remember seeing Jurassic Park be re-released, Titanic. I know that these were during different eras and whatnot, but overall my point is that movies have the ability to be re-released later on in the years.
He left us.
Well, where does he think he's going? When you gotta go, you gotta go.
So if you release something great in January and you're afraid people will forget about it by December, re-release it in December. Re-release it during holiday time. Who's to say that that's not gonna help out in your favor? So plus you can also give a streaming push during those times. So release a good movie in January and then push it during the holidays as being available on streaming somewhere. Like that'll keep it top of mind as we go into the award season. So those are just crap reasons, in my opinion. And the last thing I'll say before yielding the mic back is, as winter month people in the Midwest, who wants to sit inside all dang month because it's cold outside? Like we get bored being inside. Okay, Mom, you ready?
Yes, the exception.
No, she's not the exception.
I did think it was funny that one of the articles talked about the fact that it was the article or comments in one of the ones that we were looking at, that it was the height of ski time. So people were out skiing.
To finish what I was saying anyways is, very few people like being stuck indoors. And even though it is still sitting still, we long to get out and be able to go do things, but we need things to do. So release good movies in January, because I'll gladly get out of the house, drive my 10 minutes to the local theater or whatever to go see my movie or whatever, because it's a new experience and it's something to do so I don't feel trapped indoors.
One of the Redditors that I was reading about was like, inevitably almost every year the East Coast gets shut down due to weather, and it would be disastrous to release a movie you're hoping does well, in that time span. So I think it's like the idea that we want to get out and do stuff. Sometimes we can't. Sometimes we just can't. So there's that. There's also just the fact that like I think a lot of consumers don't want to do that. A lot of consumers don't want to brush a bunch of snow off their car, in the coldest month of the year, and drive to the movies to try to see something they might not even be that enthused about. I think the way they do it makes plenty of sense, and I don't think you run a business on the idea, a studio, in this sense. It's like on the idea of, well, maybe consumer trends will just be different this year. I think you have to play numbers the way they play numbers. I think it makes sense the way they do it. I don't know that there's any way around that, really. And the re-releases you talked about, like that's an extra expenditure. You're increasing your expenses by re-releasing it and for what? To just because, like, well, let's just see if January is a magical difference this year and spend more money re-releasing this movie when we didn't have to do that in the first place.
Yes, you're right. It's an expenditure. I was offering different solutions, because along with that solution was the idea that push it on streaming then. So I'm just trying to say that, like,
streaming as this is a trend that extends way before streaming was a thing.
I understand. What I'm trying to say is in today's environment now, you can release a movie in January and then take advantage of streaming to get it in front of it. If their reason was because we want it to be top of mind as award season comes around, they can make a push using streaming to push it back into the minds of people as they vote for those awards. So that was all. I was just trying to offer a solution there.
Yeah. For a number of reasons, I'm sure studios have crunched the time that they put things in theaters. And part of that is due to the fact that one of the things they were saying is that they're almost forced now to explore other months that traditionally were dump months, because January is not the only one. It's the main one. Early fall was considered dump months as well, but they found out, hey, we released some things in September and October, and they did pretty damn well. Those might be times that we can explore. So they're looking at exploring those because, one, they just have too many blockbuster type movies to fit into their limited time frame that they currently have defined for those. So they're almost forced to do that. But the main thing I wanted to bring up was the amount of time that movies are in theaters. And that's part of the fact that they have so much content to put out there that they limit the amount of time that things are in theaters. Sometimes we miss out on things because we wait a couple of weeks before we're going to go see it. And the next thing you know, it's gone. And I find that very irritating. But, I might not be so irritated if they were instantly available on streaming when they ripped them from the theaters, but that's not usually the case. And so as a movie viewer, if I delay 2 weeks and then it's gone, it's like, what, WTF?
Yeah, I mean, one example of that is a recent example anyway, is the Baltimoreans. I wanted to see the Baltimoreans, but I couldn't see it in the first couple of weeks it was out around here. It's an indie film, and so obviously it didn't get, wide theatrical release, but it was in a theater, a couple of theaters maybe near us. And so when we were ready to see it maybe a couple of weeks later, it was nowhere near us.
Yeah.
I mean, nowhere near us. And I think the nearest theater was like an hour and a half. And I actually considered going.
Yeah.
And then it turned out it was only available 2 times a day at that particular theater, and it was during the week. And so it was extremely annoying, and ultimately we had to wait until it was available on some streaming channel. I can't remember where it was. And by then it was well past the time it was originally released around here. But to your dad's point, they got extremely, extremely annoying. But back to the original issue of January as dump month, I just don't see a problem. I'm hard pressed to find a problem with the studios dumping movies they don't anticipate doing well in theaters in January. I'm hard pressed to see any problem at all with it. As a matter of fact, I see it as beneficial to theaters that often get that really lose out, I feel, a lot on these movies that get these short runs like your dad and I were talking about. It's a benefit to the theaters for, those people who might want to go to the theater in January. At least the theaters can get the benefit of those patrons. And so I'm just really hard pressed to see any issue at all with dumping these movies in January. I won't go to the theaters because I am one who likes to stay warm in the winter and prefers to just, ask your dad to, get the fireplace set up, grab my blanket, and find something really nice on streaming or to go grab something out of our library on DVD. That is just how I operate. But for people who, who prefer to trek, to head out in the snow or happen to live in mild, like you, Brandon, or people who happen to live in mild temperatures like Chris, then, more power to them.
Yeah. I like to get out on occasion. I mean,
by himself.
But that was going to be my point, actually, is think about, you can't dictate how consumers are going to behave. You have to meet them wherever they're at. And the reality is it's easier to get maximize your profits if people are all together and can go to the movie together. When are people all together? During the holidays and during the summer.
That's right.
That's when you're most likely with your family or with your friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
that's right.
and the January is probably a very hectic month for everybody because you're coming out of that phase.
That's right.
And you're trying to catch up on the if things were happening in the 2 weeks that you were off, you're trying to catch up on that. And like we said already, you're saving because you just spent a bunch. It makes all the sense in the world.
One of the things that they said in the comments was that, this notion that things are done in the summer and in the winter months, or I should say the early winter, Christmas, Thanksgiving time frame, is that kids are out of school. But I love one of the rebuttal comments that said they're in school 10 months out of the year. So what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that the other thing that they talked about was the expanded release of Oscar-nominated movies, the stuff that was released in the Thanksgiving and Christmas time era. They get pushed into expanded release in theaters, so that sort of pushes out new works that might come in because now they're pushing for this trying to get or to refresh the minds of the Oscar voters that, here are the movies that are out, and the people are out there looking at them. My thing is that it's not always about money because they're obviously doing some things for Oscar nods. But having said that, sometimes crappy movies make a lot of money. I mean, there are a lot of cult classics that have come out of, it's like, who would have known? And they've made tons of money. So I think there's a constant battle here between making money, getting Oscar nods, and where does that fall in terms of the choice that you make in where you release, or the time frame that you release a movie.
Dad, I love that you brought up like the cult classic movies and such like that. And maybe my problem with the idea of a dump month is that when I was, hitting college and really starting to become, a person that was taking care of himself and being outside, which I know some people will say that is a loose term because when did I ever take care of myself at that age? But my point being is that my social calendar was my own. I got in the car, I funded my outings, all that kind of stuff. And at that formative time of my life as an adult, was that January was when Underworld was released. Mm-hmm. And so for me, that to me is, I enjoy the Underworld original movie. I've enjoyed the series. And knowing that it got its start in January, when I was in my young 20s, I struggled to view January as a bad month to release things based off of that.
Stop the car. Stop the car!
Back off!
Okay. All right. You've lost a lot of blood. If you don't stop the car, you're gonna get us both killed. I'm not screwing around!
Neither am I. Now shut up and hold on, I'll be fine.
But you saw Underworld, and you're using Underworld as an example, and I'm like, you got to go see it. So like, what is nobody stopped you from going into the movie.
I was also living in Arizona when that movie was released, so it was real easy to go out there. Streaming wasn't an option. Streaming wasn't an option back when I was in college. I mean, I'm that old that yes, I predate streaming and stuff. But I guess my point is, you can still go see movies during January, even if it is a designated dump month. Like, for instance, and I think this kind of ties into the theme of our site. You probably went to see that movie because it appealed, that the premise appealed to you, right? Like, you've always been kind of a vampire, werewolf. You've been into that kind of stuff. Well, There you go. There was a movie, even if it wasn't anticipated to do well, the premise of it appealed to you, and you went to go see it. And there's no one stopping you from going into the theater during January. But if I'm running a business and I got all these movies and I know which ones I think are going to do well and which ones I don't think are going to do well, I got to run the business with that idea.
So I don't running a studio that way makes sense to me.
I did think that a very valid point they made in terms of dollars and cents was American Sniper and Bad Boys for Life did very well for January releases with about $350 million. However, your typical blockbuster makes that in a weekend in the summer. So, okay. I mean, to their point in terms of, in terms of dollars and cents, I understand the theaters. I don't particularly like it because it limits, to Brandon's point, in the middle of winter when I'm going, okay, what are we going to watch? And you go, look at theater listings and go, that's crap. No, I guess I won't be seeing anything.
Exactly.
And I looked up a list of some of the best January movies that came out. The number one on this list from MovieWeb is The Silence of the Lambs. Came out in it came out January 30th, and it was nationwide released in February. So it's a little bit not really. Yeah. It's a little bit not actually in, but yeah. So it's that's a little misleading, but sure, it officially released in January.
You were telling me the truth back in Baltimore, sir. Please continue now.
Well, I've read the case files. Have you? Everything you need to find him is right there in those pages.
And tell me how.
First, principles, Clarice. Simplicity. Read Marcus Aurelius. Of each particular thing, ask, what is it in itself? What is its nature? What does he do, this man you seek?
He kills women.
No, that is incidental.
The second they have is Get Out, which was just another one, was wide released in February, but technically came out in January 23rd, 2017. The Paddington movies are in here. Taken, that was a late January release and did really well. And then what I'm seeing a lot is January 30th, January 23rd.
End of January.
Yeah. Cloverfield was January 18th, so it's a little earlier, but yeah. And another thing on Reddit, that I saw on Reddit was the NFL playoffs are going on right now, and that does steal a little bit from the box office. So that's another reason that January has always been dumb month, because the NFL playoffs have always been on.
Yeah.
Okay, so last thing Sundays. I can follow the playoffs as being a reasonable reason to not do so because of the popularity.
Sports one is the only one that makes sense to you, sure.
No. It's not because it's sports. It's because of the popularity of football specifically. For example, if the NBA Finals were held in January, I'd say release the dang movies. In part because the NBA playoffs never has made sense the way they schedule things. So yes, but I'm saying, however, the NFL is the most popular American sport. So if we're talking about American releases and most people are trying to go on Saturdays and Sundays, well, games are always held on Saturdays and Sundays. So it makes sense to me as to why why movie theaters would take that into account as to if they should or shouldn't release their stuff.
Exactly. So now we have several reasons. We got the snow. We got the snow. We got people coming back from holiday break, and we got the NFL playoffs. So there's a lot of reasons for this.
Is it snowing in LA right now, bro? To the point that you can't go to the theater?
That's one market though.
Is it snowing that poorly in southern Texas? Would it be snowing in the Southeast?
Would it be snowing any of those places in June? No, exactly. So,
and some parts of Texas did have snow in the last week.
To the point that they can't go anywhere?
Texas.
You can drive in Texas. Right. It's snowing.
You don't want to go anywhere.
And they don't have snow equipment and things like that for.
That's what I was getting at.
They're not going to table salt outside. They'll be fine. But all kidding aside, I wanted to offer another idea as to how to take advantage of January too. So I was thinking about movie ventures like, I know everybody gets tired of this, Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame. It was a 2-part storyline. Kill Bill Volumes 1 and 2, 2-part storylines. And so I'm curious if they've even considered maybe part one of a storyline being released in January and then giving us the conclusion in November or December as part of that push and making that storyline the big, like bookending a year, for example,
I hear what you're saying,
to give us that story. So I'm wondering if they'd even consider doing something like that. And if not, I think it's something they might want to consider going forward, as opposed to just having that one release blockbuster time.
Right. I get you.
Give me that in January. Like, I could have gone and seen Infinity War in January and then, like, geek to see it with my family when Endgame came out in November.
It still seems to me like you're ignoring the fact that people have other priorities in January, though. Generally, when you think about people's priorities in January, where post-holiday, they're getting back to their real lives after this, essentially exciting, kind of fantastical time over the holiday period. And now they're back to work. They're back to their routines. They're saving money and just trying to get through the day. They're tired. They're taking down holiday decorate. They're tired. A lot is going on in their lives. Low on their list of priorities is going to the theaters. By the time they get to that, it is probably the end of January at the very earliest, which, as Chris pointed out with some of the movies that get released, they get released at the end of January because I tend to think the data indicates that people start going back to theaters around the end of January. They look at this data. They track this data for sure. And so I think that's something that you're ignoring. And so given that, I'm still, and I know this, it sounds like we're just going around in circles here. I am still hard pressed to find any, as a matter of fact, I can almost even I can almost even see theaters shutting down in January, for that matter, because nobody's motivated to go to theaters until the end of January. Shut down for 4 weeks. I just don't see the point.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but again, I feel that part of it is a self-fulfilling prophecy in that respect. We really don't. Now, I buy some of the reasons, the poor weather, the tapped out finances, and even what you said about people being tired. That argument was also used for not releasing things in the early fall. And then they realized that, people do want to go to the theaters in September and October. September and October, school's starting back up, August, September.
But that argument has yet to be challenged for January, though. So what's up?
They don't know. The verdict is still out on January as far as what I've
until the verdict is in, it almost makes sense. Like, I think to just shut the theaters down for the month.
If you release crappy movies, it's their entire.
They have no choice. Why put a good movie out there when people are at home sleeping?
Not everybody's sleeping. Okay, hold on. So, Mom, you said one of the arguments you made was that they're getting back to their routines. And you're trying to tell me then that during the other 9 or 10 months that movies are normally released, it's not part of their routine? So why wouldn't going to the theater in January still be a return to their routine?
You've completely missed my point.
No. I'm saying what you said was that they return to their routines was one of your points. And I'm saying that going to the theater is part of people's routines. So why would we say that's not the case in January?
I wouldn't say that.
What?
I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say it's one of the things they do, but I would not say that that's part of their routine. Part of their routine is going to work. Part of their routine is getting kids to, baseball practice and soccer practice or whatever it is. Part of their routine is getting their studies in at school. That's what I mean by routine, keeping their house clean, getting in touch with their friends that they missed while they were away with family over the holiday. That's routine. That's what I mean by routine.
I think on average, most people don't go to the theaters more than once a month.
If that.
Maybe not even that, yeah. So I'm not sure it is part of their routine. It is kind of something you make time for, or
We just did a podcast. As a matter of fact, Brandon, we just did a podcast, Brandon, on two podcasts, actually one podcast, and then it got inserted into a subsequent podcast on how expensive it is to go to the theaters. Given how expensive it is to go to the theaters, why would people go to the theaters even monthly, given the expense of it?
I am not saying that I expect a blockbuster movie in January. I'm just saying I would rather the quality be better than what the heck they put out there. It doesn't have to be a movie that they expect to make, mega bucks on, but at least have a better movie than some of the crap that they do dump in January.
And maybe my arguments haven't been stating that explicitly, but that is what I've been trying to say, is that I just want to make sure you're giving me something of quality during this time. Give me the option to try and go see something of quality instead of literally letting me know you don't think I should go to the theaters anyways because we ain't even want to release this crap.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to get at. More than anything, that's what I'm trying to get at.
It's mutually exclusive.
I think you put your best movies out when people are going to be. You can't dictate how consumers are going to behave. And to the point. Wait. Let me say to the point. I also think January doesn't really have a holiday that. I mean, there's Martin Luther King Day, but that's not like, oh, it's Martin Luther King Day, let's all go to the movies.
Yeah.
February has Valentine's Day, where a lot of people probably will go to the movies or make plans to go to the movies.
Or President's Day.
Yeah,
President's Day is another.
Yeah, maybe President's Day. Maybe President's Day. Maybe, and I mean, Dad, I remember you and I went to the theater on Super Bowl Sunday one time, and there was a discount that day, so they didn't expect anybody to be there, but and I don't think they were.
So you're going to discount not that you were celebrating President's Day, just to make that clear.
There are a lot of people that are not sports fans that bemoan the fact that they are being pushed with all this sports content in January. I've dated some of them. They want something else to do. In fact, I have been pulled on dates. I have had dates purposefully scheduled during games because they don't want to be forced to watching yet another one. And they want an option.
You were the sports content.
Other than sports.
I think you were the sports content there.
Yes, but I'm still stating it like that. I don't know how this has happened, but in a lot of my dating history, I have dated women that have not wanted to follow sports. Maybe it's because I'm such a fanatic that I needed a counterbalance, but my point is still that, like, while football is a giant draw in January, those people that don't follow sports are looking to escape that as much as possible. And so movies should be an option. Quality movies should be an option.
Can I just say that movies are not the only form of entertainment? Let me just put it that way. So why not just accept that January is what it is and do something like enjoy one of those gifts you got for Christmas or Hanukkah? Like, your dad does these like 1,000, 2,000 piece puzzles. And he'll just sit down at the table and he works on those for hours at a time. What about, listening to, some CDs you haven't listened to, in a long time? What about doing that? Putting on some headphones and doing some easy listening. What about reading a really good book? No, I'm very serious.
No,
what about taking 2 or 3 hours and reading just a really good book? What about doing some writing? There's just so many. There are so many other ways you can spend, and those are all free, by the way. But there are just so many other ways you can spend your time. It does not have to be at the movies. If there's nothing at the movies, you need to find something else to do.
What about using that AMC gift card?
Thanks for listening to our movie podcast.
Exactly.
Don't watch movies.
That's what I was thinking.
I know. Among the reasons I was laughing was that here we are as a movie and television podcast. We're like, hey, don't do that stuff. But, what about...
Doing that, too.
What about using that Christmas gift of a movie theater gift card, Mom? What about that? I got this gift card, this $50 gift card to go to AMC or Cinemark or whatever like that. And you're like, nah, don't use that. Stay home.
Dinner in a movie?
Yeah.
Well, you could use that whatever, but...
I'm just saying among the gifts that you receive.
My point is that no, I just got through, arguing that there is no problem. I have no problem at all with the studios dumping bad movies into theaters in January because nobody, apparently the data indicates that people generally don't want to go. And if that's then I see no problem at all with them doing that. And so I don't understand why why you and your dad feel offended by that when there's so many other options you have.
I'm not offended by that.
I'll just go back to again.
Save your AMC gift card for when there's a good movie.
Data can always say exactly what you want it to say if you manipulate it in the right way. So if the data supports that people don't go in January, then everybody's like, nobody goes in January. We're not talking about the influences being we gave a crappy product as to why people didn't go to the theater.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's like, do we even know that's what it is? Because a lot of these habits were started before there was empirical data to support it.
I hear what you're saying, and that there is a chance that there are bad movies at the theaters, and that's why people don't go. But there is also a very, very, very good chance that people don't go because the weather's bad, and they don't have any money in January because the holidays finish. Those are very plausible explanations for why people are not going to theaters in January. It seems perfectly reasonable. So, I'm just putting that out there. Is that I don't think you should be a skeptic just for the sake of being a skeptic. I do think it's fair to ask your question, but I don't think you should do it just for the sake of being a skeptic. In addition to that, I sound like a broken record here. I don't see the problem with it. My mom would tell us when we were younger, what do you mean you don't have anything to do? Go read a freaking book.
I'll pitch another alternative. Go see a bad movie. Just go pick a bad movie, go watch it, and have fun with the fact that it stinks, or be pleasantly surprised, or be like, that wasn't great, but I do like what some things that director did. I mean, be a film nerd. Yeah. Being a film nerd doesn't mean seeing the best thing all the time. So just go see a movie that sucks.
Spend your money,
spend $50 at the theater to do so, right? Go spend your $50 on a bad movie experience.
You'll appreciate the good ones that much more.
I'd appreciate that $50 even more.
Well, to your point, Chris, you might find a gem.
Yeah, you could. You'd never know. Or you might find a movie that sucks, and for some reason you like it, and no one else does. And now you got personality.
And $50 less in your wallet.
Brandon will never be satisfied.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. Honestly, we could go on and on like we do at our dinner table, but we appreciate you figuring out your cup of tea along with us. Make sure you rate and follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Also, leave a comment and tell us your thoughts on the January movie dump. You can stay in the loop on all things CLTC by subscribing on our website at cupofteacritiques.com. You can also find us on Facebook, check out our Instagram at Cup of Tea Critiques, and on Letterboxd at CLT Critiques. For Reba, Terry, and Chris, I'm Brandon. We'll see you next time for another deep look with a deep brew.